Hi, welcome to Clutter Bravado.
Yes, and it's the energy. It's not just about the stuff.
So we should probably just get into it, right?
Let's go.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm very well.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
We made it through another weekend. This one was actually really restful. It's kind of nice.
It was very nice.
Yeah. Not a ton of events going on, but you did host a very fun dinner. We had a great dinner party with a few friends. Cesar Geraldo, who was on our last episode, was it?
Yeah.
2 episodes ago?
2 episodes ago.
Yeah. He was here with his partner, Rudy, and a few other friends. It was really, really fun.
It lasted until late.
2:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
I think that's the latest one that I've been to here.
We haven't had one of those in a while, but Cesar was great, and then we had Alex that we'll have on the podcast very soon.
Alex Purcell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I'm excited about. He's a really talented furniture designer, so it won't be fun.
I'm excited to film that one too. It was really interesting sitting down with them for dinner because we asked them a bunch of questions just about the podcast, like this podcast, and it was a really interesting round table of people talking, just throwing out ideas. And I feel like that's what this is for, what having dinners like that is for. It's getting inspiration, getting new ideas, and sort of working like a salon almost, where everyone's sort of working on supporting each other's creative efforts and what we're working on. So it was really cool.
Well, that's what I think that's the goal that, we've had here, is to nurture creativity.
Yeah.
So Kimberly, was very big on that, and I am too. I mean, obviously, and you with the podcast, that takes it to another level, where we are here for all those artists and designers and architects to talk about their process, their passion.
Yeah, I mean, the goal is definitely to get inspiration for myself and to share that inspiration with other people and anyone who's listening. And speaking of that, I actually want to plug a podcast that I've been listening to quite a bit lately. There is a podcast. I've been listening to it on Spotify. It's on Apple Podcasts. It's kind of everywhere. Also on YouTube. And it's called Creative Codex. And the host and the creator behind it, his name is MJ Dorian. And he puts so much work into every episode. He's been around, I think it's 5 years now. And each of the episodes is so intentional and so well done. He composes the music for them. He writes them. He's directing it. It's so much work that goes into them. And so there are a few different kinds that he'll have. So he'll do a series on an artist, or he was working with, they talked a lot about Carl Jung for a while too, and his work on alchemy, which is kind of where I'm at with it right now. I discovered him through doing some research on Alexander McQueen, and his podcast popped up because he did a 3-episode series on Alexander McQueen. It was one of the most in-depth explanations, stories of his life, and it was so beautifully done. I cried listening to it. I know. And it was so emotional and so honest and so well done. It really honored Alexander McQueen as an artist and as a person. There were a lot of things that I learned through listening to it and that are now in my bones. The way that he delivers this and the way that he wrote it is so inspiring and so impressive. And the way that he also described, using words to describe one of McQueen's early fashion shows, Voss, I was moved. Just the way he was talking about it. And I know that I'd probably seen some images from it before. I'd never seen a video of it. And I was really curious to look at it afterward. And what I found was that when I sat down to watch the video, I already knew what it looked like because of how well he described it. And during our conversation, our roundtable about the podcast, someone had said that working in an audio medium, talking about a visual medium can be really challenging. Talking about design, having designers explain their designs and their inspirations and their ideas behind something with words, and you're listening to it and you're not looking at it, that sometimes that can create a disconnect. And I find that because I write poetry, because I'm a writer, and I think, I do think in images as well, but I like the descriptions of things and how you can tie emotions in and describe a feeling and to describe how a color will affect you or how a texture will affect you. There are so many senses that are involved, but I do feel like the description of it can be so powerful. And so I just wanted to plug that real quick with especially the Alexander McQueen series that he's done on Creative Codex. And also I went through the Marina Abramovich series as well. I have so much respect for her as an artist. I've always been inspired by her. I did a very similar performance to her, The Artist is Present. When I first moved to LA, there was a performance art event, and I wore 6-inch heels and a purple velvet dress that I borrowed from a friend's collection. She made it. I picked out my hair so it was enormous, and I dyed it purple. And I walked through this space, and there were a lot of guests that were going around looking at the art as a very bizarre space. But I was completely silent the entire time. And I would pose like I was a mannequin. I would pose in one area, and then I would slowly move through the space, and I would find someone. I'd just make eye contact with them, and I'd hold eye contact with them until the moment sort of passed. But I allowed myself to really connect with them. And the way that this podcast sort of described her experience, and they quoted her quite a bit, but that she could feel their pain. And she could feel what they were feeling. I do think that there is something that is really powerful about creating that direct contact with someone without speaking, without touching, without anything. There is something in there that's really, really powerful. And so because I'd done this and I had found out about Marina Abramovich actually after coming up with this idea, so all ideas are already out there in the ether, but I got really into her and the way that, again, he's describing their performances, and he uses so much sound design in it as well.
Uh-huh.
Well, he'll take some audio from the videos that were recorded at the time, and he'll put that behind his description of it. And there is one performance that she did with Ulay that was, oh gosh, what was it called? Expanse. Oh, I am going to forget the name of it. I'm going to put it in the video. Don't worry. Expansion of Space, something like that, where the two of them were fully nude and running into these columns in a parking garage and moving the columns ever so slightly with each one. And even after Ulay had stopped, she continued to go. And it just became this really profound example of how she never gave up on her performance. She never quit. She never broke the rules of her performance. And the way that he brought in the sound design was so powerful, and you're moved. And I like, there are a few moments where I just stayed in my car for an extra 5 minutes listening to this podcast. Because I couldn't stop. Like it was so powerful. So I wanted to take some time to plug that podcast, because I do feel like in the creative community, we're all doing things in different ways, and we can get inspiration from each other, and that those stories do need to be told. And that's something that I really want to do with this podcast as well. The goal of it is to have artists and designers and architects come on and talk about their process, so that we can get a really in-depth and personal idea of what it's like, and to inspire us to look at things a little bit differently, getting to know the way that someone looks at their own art. And I also want to broaden that into maybe doing some biography. Okay. Really digging into some biography of obviously designers that are around currently, and some that may have passed. There are a few that are really, legends that we just recently lost, especially in architecture. And I want to tell their story. So this podcast Creative Codex really inspired me to do that, and I'm really excited for how I can use this inspiration and translate that into something that we can do with the show as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
The next iteration of Clutter Bravado.
Yeah. Well, it'll be an addition. It'll be something
addition.
that's added onto it, because I think that what we're doing now, I love it. So
Yeah, it's interesting when listening to you talk, and so far we have 23 episodes, and the way designers describe their process has been also different.
So different.
From one to the other.
Yeah.
Between the story, between the way they process the way of the way of thinking. It's
Yeah.
like someone it's a story, someone it's a visual, someone it's a feeling, someone it's fascinating to listen to, and everybody was different. Most people are different in most of the answers most of the questions you ask.
Yeah.
Which is really fascinating, because I've known most of them for so long that it's not something that I'd never approached them with the questions you ask, and listening to them answer, I was like, wow, we're all different.
Yeah.
And we all do the same thing. Same thing. The design part is the creative part, but the way we approach it is different, which is fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when we had Thomas Hayes come on, and the two of you talked about how the first thing that you notice is the smallest detail.
Right.
And there is so much value in that. And I feel like there are others who have said, like, when I first, walk into a room, I notice like where the light is hitting, or what the architecture is. Like, everyone has a different response to that question, and I really like that.
Yeah, because it's going back. I want to go back and actually, it's almost like an article that we need to write or something like that, the same size, because it's really interesting how each one of us, our personalities and our experience and where we live too, because I think that it has an impact on the way we see our industry.
Definitely. So speaking of the industry in different cities, we've got a couple of things coming up. So this week is the West Hollywood Design District events week.
It's sponsored by Aspire magazine. I think that most of the events are sold out, but it seems that it's going to create a good buzz for design in LA.
Yes.
Coming on, after a strong art week, because I thought that Freeze and Phoenix and all the art shows were spectacular, for LA. I thought that it was an incredible thing. And this week it's going to be design.
Yes. A lot of design events, a lot of getting to talk to designers. I'm really excited about it. And I want to plug Kelsey Dodson, because she's amazing. And with Aspire magazine, and she's really taken a lot of designers and sort of put them together. She's really creating a lot of bridges with Joe Kemble Fuji. And the two of them together, they're just like such a powerhouse duo, aren't they? They're so fun. Yeah, they're so cool. So excited to see them also. And yeah, I think that this next week is going to be very jam-packed. And then next week,
we're going up to San Francisco.
We're going to
for
San
that
Francisco.
Market Week. My time in San Francisco in the 90s and early 2000s, that week was huge for the design center. It was fun. And I'm excited to be part of it again this year, because it's a little bit sentimental, and B, I love this market. I love San Francisco, and it'll be nice to see a lot of old friends. And we're gonna do 4 or 5 interviews up there.
Yes.
In front of an audience. So
in
that's
front of an audience.
Interesting.
I'm a little nervous about that. Not gonna lie. Here's the thing. I love being on stage. Love it. Love being in front of a crowd. That's where I feel most comfortable. I love sitting on the sofa and interviewing someone. The combination of those two, for some reason, is giving me so many butterflies. Yeah, I'm excited about it. Don't get me wrong. And I think that it's going to go very well. And I can't imagine that it could go terribly or anything. And
it's all personalities that we're interviewing, so it'll be really interesting.
It'll be fun, people. It'll be great. I know. Do you get that? Do you ever get butterflies about anything?
Oh,
anymore?
I do all the time. As soon as you put me in front of camera, I have butterflies.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Still?
No, less. But I think that up there he will. I think that up there he will.
Have you ever done anything like that in front of a crowd? No.
I've given talks, but I've
Sure.
never done, something that's a little bit more, not performance, but a little, where you're interviewing.
stage.
Yeah, so that will be interesting.
You're going to do so well.
That'll
I'm
be
excited
fun.
about it. And we have a week to prepare, so I'm sure we'll be fine.
Oh yeah, and the 6-hour road trip.
Yes.
That could be devoted to that. So we'll be at this is a use at the showroom, and we're excited.
Yes.
So,
Yes, definitely.
Shout out to them.
Shout out to them. And our guest that we have on the episode today is Jenn Howell. So she is the founder of Art of Elysium. And Art of Elysium is a foundation that brings art to people who need it.
Mm-hmm.
So especially to kids, people who are kids who are in residences or institutions where they're not able to sort of get out, or people who are in neighborhoods that are lacking in art resources. So she helps to bring that to them. And through that, she's got this incredible network of artists that she brings up to the Art of Elysium. Is it a residence up there?
Yeah, it's a residence.
Yeah. Here at the Talmadge. And she also will put on a lot of events showcasing an artist here and there that's really doing a lot for the community. And this past week, she had an Oscar nominee.
I know.
An Oscar nominee.
Who could not be sweeter, more talented, sang, I don't know, 10 songs or something like that.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. That voice.
Abraham Alexander, who is the writer of Like a Bird, which was a song nominated from the soundtrack for Sing Sing.
Mm-hmm.
And he performed, he did 2 sets, I think, didn't he? He did one before dinner and then one after.
One after, yeah.
And I was able to catch the one after, and I was blown away. He's incredibly talented. There's so much heart in what he's creating. And we watched the Oscars last night, and he's on the red carpet looking like a dream. Just like the whole fit was, you nailed it. Unfortunately, he didn't win the award this time, but the nomination and for him to show up, it's so huge. And he's so young. It's something that I really admire, and just the humanness behind the people who are creating the things that we are engaging in and the things that we love. I love that. So
It was really fun.
it was really special. And that was maybe like the 5th event that I've been to from Art of Elysium. Jenn brings in some of the most incredibly talented artists and has this incredible web of people that are supporting each other. And she supports them so much. And she also has her event, Heaven, every year, which she'll talk about. And Heaven is once a year. She will pick a visionary, and the visionary will create what their idea of heaven is. And it's bringing a lot of artists together. And then it's also overall a gala that is intended to fundraise for Art of Elysium. And I'm just blown away by her and everything that she's been able to create. And she's also had to navigate through some really challenging things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, working with, professionals who, when you know them as an artist, sometimes there can be other things that happen in their lives, or, again, the humanness behind artists. Like,
right.
Everyone is human, everyone is capable of good and evil and, everything in between. And the way that she's navigated it, I think she's done it with so much grace. And so we talk a bit about that as well. But this is an episode that's a lot different than the ones that we've done before.
Yeah, and it's art related,
yes,
for sure. But yeah, different aspect of it.
Different aspect of it, for sure. So do you think we should get to it?
Let's go.
Welcome to Clutter Bravado. Today we are here with Jenn Howell. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
You had to travel a long ways to get here.
A big journey to make it here today.
All the way down the elevator.
From the 10th floor.
Yes.
How long have you been in this building?
January 10th, 1998.
Wow.
That is how long. Yeah.
Jen was 5.
Yes, exactly. Seven actually.
Seven.
No.
Got it. Yes. And then, so you live in the building, and then also Art of Elysium is located in this building.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And this was technically our first office as well, because it was out of the apartment for quite some time
Okay.
before. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
So, we've been to a couple of events there, and I have gotten to know like how it works, and I'm a little bit more involved now. And I think first of all, Art of Elysium is incredible. But I want you to explain what you do.
It's such a big question. No, it is. We very simply believe that it is everyone's God-given right when we're born to create and be creative, and we believe in connecting those who can tap in to that unknown place and create at the highest level. We connect them with communities of need so they can inspire those communities to create and transcend their circumstance. So we work with artists and musicians and writers and directors and performance artists, literally any kind of art form you can imagine. And we believe that if you build an artistic community that creates without ego, that will be the ripple effect to ultimately change the world. So that is it in a nutshell.
In working in a community of artists, you have a lot of personalities that you're working with. So tell me, what do you think is the difference between working with an artist community and working with artists, whether big name artists or smaller, just people who are starting, who are just creative, versus, you know, working in like a more like corporate or even like a nonprofit structure? Like is the dichotomy of those two communities? How do those work together?
You know, I mean, I think the beauty of artists, especially incredibly talented artists, is their inability to think within boxes and within constraints. So to be able to see all possibilities and then to tap into whatever possibility that resonates with them and bring that to earth, where I think that so much of, sadly, our education system in a lot of ways and our workforce system, they want people to think inside of the box. They want people to follow a very specific path. And I think, you know, in times of great unrest in civilizations and societies, the first thing people do is they wipe out the artistic community because they're afraid, because those are the visionaries. Those are the ones who can see all possibilities and not just conformity. So I think the thing I love most about working with artists is seeing the way they see life. And hopefully they all bring a very different perspective. And I think that whatever religion people believe in, I'm always very careful to acknowledge that the organization's by no means religious at all. I have my personal faith and my personal belief. But the inarguable truth is that we were created and we are here. And so I believe that whatever creator you choose to believe in, if you just want to call it evolution, if you want to call it God, whatever you want to call that creative force, the artist mirrors that because they're in constant creation. And that is what we're supposed to be. So we, in my opinion, each and every one of us are created perfectly in divinity. And we're supposed to see the world through our unique lens and not see it just like we're told to see it.
Yeah.
And so working with artists, I think they live that truth in a way a lot of people do not, because we've been taught not to. We've been taught to follow the rule, color within the line, don't dare go outside of those lines. And they have dared to go outside of those lines.
Yeah.
And those are the artists that interest me the most.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the things I love about art is that so many people can have a different perspective of it. As, you know, I like write poetry, and a lot of my poetry is something that means something really deeply to me. And when someone will read it, the experience that they have with it is nothing like what I had initially intended. When you're working with artists, like, first of all, are you an artist as well? Do you consider yourself an artist as well?
I did. I mean, I went to film school. That
Okay.
was where I started. I went, studied filmmaking and minored in writing and philosophy.
Okay.
So my whole life I've written, and at some point we'll sit and write a book. My life went in an entirely different way.
Yeah.
So I feel that I am the greatest lover of art And I definitely have an artistic nature because that is all that really matters to me, is the pursuit of giving artists the ability to create and building community that through those creations can help others. It just went in an entirely different way. I mean, I went to film school because of David Lynch. I saw Wild at Heart and was mesmerized and was like, that is the path I want to go down. And that's why I went to Emerson. I left Mississippi. Like, the path that was laid out for me was a very traditional path. And I went after seeing Wild at Heart. I was like, I'm going to go study film, and I'm going to tell stories like this.
Yeah.
And so that's what got me to LA. And then just pretty early on, it just kind of shifted and went in a very different direction.
Oh, definitely. That actually, I mean, David Lynch is another one of those artists that you may not understand exactly what's going on, but you can respect all of, like, there's so much that's behind everything that he's doing. He's so creative, and a tragic loss for this year, but his legacy lives on forever.
It's one of my very best friends. We were meditating. I went to the TM Center, and I'm very fortunate that I got to spend time with David in this reality.
Yeah.
And we were meditating together last week, and after meditation, she goes, I really think that he has broken himself into 1,000 people, 1,000 pieces, and is speaking to all of us in different ways right now, because the meditations have been so profound since he's left.
Yeah, I started practicing TM in 2018, and one of the ways that I heard about it was like through hearing about it not from David Lynch, but knowing that he was involved in it. Quick story. I was an English major in college, and I took a couple of film classes, and I took a David Lynch film class and dropped out of it. College was a hard time for me. But what I made it to was I got through all of his really early work up until like The Elephant Man. And I was so inspired because he started as a painter and started sort of animating his paintings, and like that's how the film sort of came out of it. And I love that evolution of his art, and I find that happens so much with artists, that you'll start in one place and then you just keep creating, and then you keep doing something, you try something new, and then all of a sudden maybe the body of work that you're known for has nothing to do with where you started, but it's all influenced along the way. I find that really, really fascinating. I also I keep trying to get back into my TM practice. I fell out of it and I want to get back in.
Now's the time.
Now is definitely
I do
the
think
time.
he's doing
Now is definitely the
some
time.
massive
Yeah.
work on that other side over there.
Yeah.
Like I think he chose to leave when he did to wake us up in a very different way.
Yeah. He's so talented. Oh, we could talk about David Lynch all day, but I'm not going to.
I could definitely talk about David Lynch all day. Like, I mean, he is definitely the maestro. Like,
Yeah.
he's everything.
So I want to go back a little bit to the interpretation of art, because for someone who maybe isn't necessarily an artist or doesn't identify themselves as an artist or isn't actively creating something, do you feel, I mean, you're a creator, so maybe you're unable to tell from this, but do you feel that someone that isn't necessarily artistically inclined is able to interact with art in a way that is deeply meaningful, in a way that a creative would?
I think that inside of each of us, that we were each born creative spirits. I do believe that lies in us. I think that some of us, I am a very big believer in reincarnation and multiple lives and karma that kind of carries on through. I think some of the greatest artists who work and that we respond to as viewers probably lived deeper lives or have deeper dharma and karma to pay back, and they're reaching from a deeper well. They might be older souls. They could have just come into this reality more. I'm not exactly sure. That is the beauty of beliefs. We all have our own relationship to the creator. And I think that you can absolutely be so inspired and moved by art that can awaken your soul, even if you do not identify yourself as an artist.
Yeah.
But I think it's just that one melody that might hit you and you remember it from some other place and time. And that wakens you up in an entirely different way and you're forever changed. I think that art is the song of our soul. So I think that the way you interact with it, if it is just from viewing it, if it's, you know, they're paintings. I've been to museums a gazillion times with different people, and they'll respond to something and I have no response.
Yeah.
But then there's a painting down the hall that I'm weeping in front of. And I think that it speaks to that eternal part of each of us. And I think in every great religion and every great spiritual practice, it's why song is so important. It's why the building is so important. It's why the paintings on the wall are so important. The architecture is so important, because that is how we pay homage to God, the Creator. Again, whatever that force is you want to identify, that is how you experience. That is, you stand in a cathedral and you are in awe because it's so grand, and you can't comprehend that we were all created in this perfect design.
Yeah.
And so I think that art is so much tied to spirituality that I think that we all have our own dance with it one way or another.
Sure. I'm also a very spiritual person, and I'm sure that there are probably some people who are listening that like maybe aren't spiritual people, but also consider themselves creatives. In that way, do you feel like art is also something that can transcend any of the spirituality, that it's like something, maybe even like a connection with nature, maybe it's a connection with, you know, the like the scientific history of the human, of like of man, you know?
I mean, I think it goes back, like, if you just want to look at the act of creation just simply as the Big Bang.
Sure.
Like, if you want to look at it strictly through that lens and not any spiritual or religious lean to it whatsoever, it is a point of creation. That is where we were birthed from. That is where every organism was born from, is this moment of non-existence to existence.
Yeah.
So that's creation's art. I mean, to create, to be an artist is to create. It is to write something. Like, I look at David, and like the one thing he always talked about is whenever you meditate, you dip into something. It's this unified consciousness that we're all a part of, that we were all born from, that we all came from, that we all go back to. And that's where his ideas came from. And he was always very clear about that. It's like you go and that's where you catch the big fish. Like you don't swim in shallow waters, you go to the deepest part, and that's where the big fish come from, those ideas. That is, at the end of the day, it's hard for me to understand artists who don't identify in some spiritual way, because I'm always like, where do you think those words came from?
Yeah.
Whenever you're writing a song and they just pop in your head, do you think you just did that? Like, who's whispering that in your ear?
Yeah.
So I always, and I know I've got tons of friends who are like, oh, I don't believe in that. And I'm like, well, where do you think that came from? Like, it's not just you. Like, it's part of such a larger conversation. And that's the art that hits. I think the reason David's work hit so much, even though people are like, well, the storylines go here or go there, it was a universal consciousness, and that he created these worlds from. He tapped into the good and the bad in all of us. He tapped into the light and the dark. He played with these worlds. And even if it might not be your traditional beats in regards to storytelling, you felt it because you knew it. Like, somewhere inside of you, you knew the truth about what he was putting out there. And that to me is where great art comes from.
So talking about the tapping into the good and the bad in everyone, and the, you know, the light and the dark, that is something about artists that a lot of us can identify with, which, I mean, it's a human thing as well. We all have that within us. And as artists especially, like, sometimes you're tapping into something that can be a really, like, a darker part of yourself, and being open to share that as your art can sometimes be a real challenge, especially on the socially on the you know, and the judgmental eye of society. With some of the artists that you have worked with, there have been headlines. There have been scandals. There have been some real big personalities. And I don't want to dip too much into the nitty-gritty of that, but I want to ask you how it is that you walk through these really tough situations with people who are really close to you in your life. For you personally, how are you able to sort of like reconcile with it, and what does that healing process look like for you?
It's interesting because the Art of Elysium, we are definitely an artist community. And in so many ways, beyond being a charity, we're actually a movement. It is calling to task the artistic community to come together and really share their gifts with others who are suffering. Whenever you create something that has the intention of so much light, I think it does pull in a certain amount of darkness. And I think that a lot of the artists who have come into this kind of tribe of community that we've created, some of them are incredibly broken themselves. And that is where some of their creativity comes from, is their brokenness. And I think that they see this intention to heal others through the creative process. And they come in and they definitely intend to volunteer and do that for others. That is a pure intention. And we are so grateful for that. But often they're not healing themselves. They're using their pain to create from. And so I think if you have undealt with, I will say, pain, it self-perpetuates. It's just like light perpetuates light. Where there's darkness, turn on the light. Like, if you have this hurt and that is what you're using as your main motivation to draw and fuel your creative process, you can definitely create amazing art, but you're going to continue to hurt others because you're hurt. And so, yes, there have been many scandals with people who have volunteered with us and supported us in many ways. And I will say, in regards to the charity itself, nothing has ever taken place within any of our programs or walls that ever has tapped into some of those headlines. And I am grateful for every single person who has dared to show up and use their art to be of service to someone else. I am grateful for everyone who's participating in workshops. I try to look at the situations as a whole. And I try to look at it as diplomatically as possible. We are contacted often because there are, certain things that it's always the Art of Elysium. It seems to be they're at the Art of Elysium and there it is. And so we've gotten contacted, and not always try to decline to say anything, unless I just can't, because a lie is so big, or someone's being hurt, or someone is wrongfully being accused in a way where it is just morally not safe for me in my own beliefs to say nothing. But I try my best to have compassion for everybody involved and try to understand that we're all multifaceted and that we all have our angels and our demons, and just try to constantly drive everything back to our mission. And as much as we heal the communities that we serve, how do we best help these artists in whatever way we can to heal themselves? Like, hopefully in the exchange of creativity and healing, they also heal. That is the hope, is that it is not one-sided, that everyone is doing work to heal their spiritual and emotional side through the act of creation.
I think that, having been involved with Art of Elysium for quite some time, I think that the community that you create is part of it. I mean, I think that that's why artists want to be up there or to be with you, is because there is a community where there's healing happening, for sure.
Right now, I think the world is so divided on so many issues. And to have a place that serves as a sanctuary to come together and create something new is our ultimate goal. Like, is to create a community that hasn't been seen before. I've always said, it's like, there's never been a civilization run by artists. You always have the government. You always have the people saying this is how it's supposed to be done, and you're create a world where you lead with creativity, and you don't shut down someone's creativity, and you don't shame someone because their ideas are different than yours. You revel in the perfect creations that we all are, and what we take from our own story, what we take from our own lens, and we let each other create that. I think it would heal many illnesses. I think it would heal wars. I think it could heal everything if you just look at it that way. It's very simple. We all have our story that we're here to tell. Respect that.
I feel that one of the things that is causing a lot of turmoil within the art and celebrity culture right now is the amount of power that one person can hold, simply because they have the attention of everyone. When you hold on to a lot of people's attention, people can oftentimes turn that into a deification, making this person bigger than you, making them more important than you, when really they're just another creator. And in that way, we tend to put artists and creatives and people who are known for the work that they do, holding them to a standard that is not human, that is not something that anyone can really fit into. An example that I'll use is that there was... did you watch the Grammys?
I did not.
Okay. I also didn't watch the Grammys, but I watched a few clips of it, and there were some things that, like Chappell Roan, who I happen to love, that she had said on the red carpet. It was an incredible statement. It was a really beautiful thing that she was saying, to defend people that otherwise don't have a voice. And she used her voice in order to do that. And there was a lot of criticism that what she was saying was not perfectly said. And I heard a great argument that said that this is not a politician. This is not someone who is writing the rules for our society. This is a person who is creating and is sharing something from the heart and hoping to inspire people to create change. They are not responsible for all of the changes that come from that. And as artists, it is our responsibility to share a story, to share an idea, to put something new that's out there. But like you were saying, I do feel that those ideas need a place to incubate. And that is in the audience. That is in people that maybe aren't out there creating brand new ideas all the time, but have the skills and the tools to be able to make that a reality. And when you're able to use those ideas and not deify the person who's creating it, we're able to create a community out of that. And I feel like that's something that Art of Elysium does really well.
And it is, and I agree with you. It is like almost human walking, waking idolatry. We put all of these people on a pedestal where they should not be. Mm-hmm. And it causes them harm as well. Like it's very interesting because our community, especially our visionary circle, whenever we pick visionaries for heaven, every single person who has served as a visionary for heaven, they would do what they do right now if they didn't have a home, if they had nowhere to go. They have to create. It is the very essence of them. Now, from that, a lot of them have gotten notoriety and fame, but none of them are prima donnas. They don't have entourages around them feeding their ego. To feed the ego of an artist is the biggest injustice in the world because they need to be vulnerable. They need to be humble. They do not need to be in an egoic state. And so the people that I see who feed these egos, they're really harming the artists themselves. Absolutely. And I think that often it is the entourage and the people around the artist who are not letting them experience real life anymore. Yeah. And that's a shame.
When you remove the ability for someone to be accountable for their actions, you turn someone into a monster.
You turn them into a monster.
But also there are, like, everyone has the capacity to be an awful human being. And nobody is perfect in everyone's eyes. I know for a fact that I'm the villain in a couple people's story, and that's bound to happen. But the difference is when you have someone who has a massive platform and everyone is telling them yes all the time.
All the time.
There are no checks and balances for that. There is no one to say, hey, that's messed up what you're doing, or that's messed up what you did. What are you going to do in order to fix it, to remedy that, to change something within yourself? And when you have someone that's so high up on a pedestal that no one would even consider saying that, you give someone the power to be so dangerous. It's so based in a lack of accountability on all sides.
Oh, on all sides. It's someone who I was very close to and will not go into, but has been called out for some pretty horrific stuff and should be held accountable for that. But the people who were supplying and helping and never saying anything, knowing it was going on, they're equally as responsible. And that's where it's like one person's taking the huge fall because they've been put on such a pedestal, but their teams around them, they knew what was going on.
Exactly.
And they didn't open their mouth.
Yep.
They didn't do anything. And that's where everybody has to be accountable to protect others. Like, it isn't just the person doing it.
Yeah.
They're very, very seldom doing it where other people don't know about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll sidestep away from that a little bit before we go too deep into it, I guess.
Tap dancing around like, no.
Yeah.
One of the issue, and it's hard because you both are a lot more artistic than I am. But I also think that machine promotes mediocrity because I feel like we give a platform to people who, and make them so big for something that, 6 months later, you're like, who? And that's like, whereas, I mean, you've been involved with people who had longevity. I mean, it's like, most of your visionaries have a career of decades of, and my question is how do you promote the longevity part of the artist and not just, the one-time thing?
How do we select them?
Yeah.
Or, I mean, honestly, with the visionaries, to be totally honest, a lot of them are people who I either just love their work or have resonated with at a very deep level. Jim Sheridan was our first visionary. I mean, his films were instrumental in my life in general. And so he came in. Shepard was our next visionary. He's one of my closest friends, but I think his voice in this world is so incredibly important. Shepard actually got Mark Mothersbaugh to be the next visionary after him. And Mark and Anita have become two of my closest friends in the entire world. Mark would create every single second of the day if he could. I don't know anyone who puts out more creative work than Mark. He is painting or he's writing songs. He does not stop. And I always say it was so interesting because Shepard is the one who really was like a huge fan of Mark's and was like, can I ask him to do it? Like, he was so excited. And he and Anita literally are two of the most important people in my life, as are Shepard and Amanda too. But like, that is completely like, Shepard is the one who introduced me to Mark's work, and Mark is just extraordinary. So it has just kind of been
this evolution.
Yeah, it's kind of been part of the community expanding and being like, wow, your volume of work is incredible. Wow, this is incredible. And finding people who you're really curious what their vision of heaven is, because the point of heaven from the standpoint that it was created from is what we should be talking about every day. Not war here, war there. How do we take this down? How do we destruct this? How do we blow this up? It should be, how do we build heaven? What's your vision of heaven? And yours is different than mine, but they can coexist. And that is the conversation that should be happening. Not how do we keep and prevent someone from something, but how do I help you realize your vision of heaven? And so the visionaries have been selected because their voices and their idea of heaven is, quite frankly, something that I would love to hear. And I think that very much speaks to the mission of the Art of Elysium. Because if we were all acting from the place of creation instead of destruction, we would be in a different world. And so that's how they have been selected. And all of them, not one, I keep going, they're going to be the same somewhere down the line. Like, there's going to be some convergence. They're all so different, but not one negates another. And that's where I'm like, that is what we were designed. We were designed with heaven inside of us. We were designed with this creative force inside of us. And we act as though your version's right and mine's wrong. And that's just not the case.
That's funny. The version, when you said the version of heaven, I'm like, a huge kitchen and then thousands of tables with people eating and talking and sharing. That was like that. I was like, that is my vision.
But that is it. Like, I mean, imagine that. Like, you could feed. It's Jesus on the mountain. Like, bread and fishes. Like, you're feeding people. Like, you're giving the gift of life through food. Like, that's a beautiful vision of heaven.
Wait, the way it was funny.
Yeah.
I was like, oh boy.
But that's what it's supposed to be. And like, people look at heaven and they're like, oh, the gala or this. It's not. It is designed to be the start of a conversation. the dream of it is that you walk out and you ask whoever you came with, well, what's your idea of heaven? And then you ask someone else, and you start expanding that conversation. Because we're so busy dividing into, well, the Catholics are over here and the Hindus are over here. Like, we're so busy putting everybody in buckets instead of looking at the individual lens of the people and what their heaven looks like.
Wow.
And I think that is what we're here to do, is to bring that into this world.
So for those who don't know, because you're talking about heaven, so heaven is technically
it's an artistic installation.
Yes.
In the perfect world, it would be up for a year, and that you would be able to come see, it on an ongoing basis. And the gala, as people call it, would be the kickoff event for it, is what the dream is. But it is, we build every year a vision of heaven from a visionary that we select, and they receive the Visionary Award. And it's our highest honor because it is our aspiration as to what we're trying to do as an organization is to aspire to create and share that power of creativity the way they have with the world at large. So they tell us, and we build it out, and we get their vision, and you walk in, and it's not like an event. Like, yes, there are components that are, but it is really their vision from top to bottom.
Wow. So this year,
Lee Daniels. Yes.
I'm a big fan of Lee Daniels.
I am a big fan of Lee Daniels as well. Lee
Yes.
is, he's extraordinary. And I got to know him personally through one of my very best friends, Sarah Siegel Magnus. And she produced Precious.
Wow, yeah.
And worked with Lee on that, and they became incredibly good friends. And so that is how I know Lee, is my bestie, Sarah. And we were scheduled to do it the first week of January, and we canceled.
Obvious reasons.
For obvious reasons. And, we have historically always held it in January, but the world was literally burning to the ground. And we have kind of moved the date, and we're kind of deciding right now if it is still too close to the tragedy. It is very difficult for us as an organization to go out and ask for money when people don't have homes to go to.
I understand.
So it is we want to be so respectful of what just happened with the fires.
Absolutely.
So we actually have a call with Lee's team tomorrow to have a discussion about, what we all collectively think is the best decision on if it stays where we have it currently or moving it. And we did the same thing in COVID. We were very fortunate during COVID that we didn't have to fundraise and that we could do our programs, and we're doing all of our programs remotely. But we were incredibly quiet as an organization out of respect for the need for COVID.
Yeah.
We have been incredibly, and we were doing programs during COVID, and we were helping in a million ways behind the scenes. We had fashion designers making masks for people. We had all kinds of projects going on, but we wanted to put the immediate need first. And we have done the same with the LA fires.
Yeah.
We've been doing programming with a lot of displaced families. We have been helping the communities, and we've continued our programs. We've just been very quiet about it right now because the immediate need is to help those who have been displaced.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to find the perfect tone for heaven this year out of respect for what has happened.
It's really sensitive to the needs of everyone right now. I also believe, though, that in times of hardship and in times of a lot of fear, that there is absolutely a place and a need for art, and to help to share that concept of creation and of starting something new. And I hope that you're able to find a good time for it. And I also I'm eager to attend and check it out.
It will happen.
Yeah.
It will definitely happen this
Yeah.
year. It's just trying to figure out exactly the moment, because this has been a rough start to 2025.
It has.
I
it has. Wow.
It has definitely been a very interesting time.
So, I have a series of 3 questions that I asked to all of our guests.
Okay.
And I'm not going to leave you out of that.
Okay.
So mostly we have interior designers on, but because you have so much creativity in you, I'm still going to ask these questions of you because our artists have come up with some of the most fun answers to it.
Oh, I
So
love it.
are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, great. So my first question is, our podcast is called Clutter, Bravado. What is the messiest place in your home?
Oh my gosh. I can tell you, it is this bedroom. Everything else is completely, all the cabinets are empty and clear and everything. Everything is in one room. For the past 6-7 years, or I guess until last April or May, I was basically living in Malibu. One of my best friends is an actress, and she bought a home in Malibu and booked a job right after it. And so she and her family had to go away. And she's like, well, do you want to stay at that? I'm like, 100%. So I had all my stuff in Malibu, and it has been dumped back into this one room. And it is, I literally called.
I'm not commenting.
I literally called Laurent the other day. It's like, I don't know if you're available to do a honeydew list. And he was like, what is a honeydew list? And I'm like, you don't know what a honeydew list is? A honeydew this and a honeydew that? Like, I need some honey on this room because I am so overwhelmed. I go in every day and I try to move one thing and I can't. I mean, it is beyond clutter. It is hoarding at this point.
It's even overwhelming for me.
Yeah,
really?
it is like a hoarding situation in the room. It is, everything is in it.
It's something.
Here's the thing.
We'll take you
Our podcast is called Clutter Bravado, and we are currently looking for a home organizer to come on and just break down all the ways that we can get rid of clutter. So the moment that we do that, we'll just go upstairs. Should we just take them upstairs?
If you need a demonstration,
it's considered an emergency event.
If
demonstration?
you need a demonstration,
Perfect.
you can 100% get it. Because I literally went in last night and I was like, I am going to do 3 hours. And I walked in, I'm like, nope.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
And it came back. I think it was last May that I moved back from Malibu.
Yeah.
And just, it dumped. And then it just has been.
Yeah.
But every
other
closet is empty. Every other cabinet is like everything else is set.
Yeah.
Because it's used for the charity so much. Like,
Yes,
people
exactly.
come and stay there, people do this. So, like, their areas are great, but this one area is an explosion. It is horrible.
Okay. All right. Well, fair. So we will help you.
Well, thank you.
Not personally.
Well, he very kindly, in his very French way, passed on the honeydew list.
Yes.
I'm like, I need you, please.
But also something that he does all the time. You're catering or doing the cooking and serving for Art of Elysium events that are happening upstairs quite a bit.
Done a bit.
He is the best. I mean, he is absolutely, positively the best. Those salons would not be happening without Laurent.
And those are so great too, because I've been able to attend, what was it, 2 or 3 of them now, and I mean, the amount of creativity in one space is amazing. I also love that you have musical instruments around, you have a piano around. There's always a space for an artist to perform or to just like do their art. And you're so open to it and you're so supportive of it. And that's
what they're there for. Like, everything in this building, I feel like this building
there's
has
something
a
really
very
special about
artistic soul to it, and
Yeah.
I think that you're supposed to create in this space.
I agree.
I definitely do. Hopefully, you're coming this Thursday.
I will be there. Yes.
Rio's art is amazing,
I'm
and he
really
is
excited to check it
he
out.
is the best.
Yeah.
I mean, he is the best human on the planet,
Oh.
and so talented,
Yeah.
and everything from an artistic standpoint you can want.
Wow.
Just giving and soulful, and just a creator all the way around.
Could be running in the family, yeah.
It could be running in the family too. Yeah. They're a very special group for sure, but it is that thing they've always been encouraged to create.
Yeah. Well, I will be there. I will definitely be in attendance. We should move on to our second question. So, what is your favorite space in your home, or actually in the Talmadge?
I mean, I would have to go with my meditation chair.
Ooh.
Like, I'm trying to think. I'm
Yeah.
literally just trying to. I'm like to go like it has nothing to do with anything other than the act of meditating in it. And whenever I'm using that, as I should be using it twice a day, which I'm not always. But
Yeah.
as long as I'm actually going to that chair to sit and meditate, everything's better.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now I fail greatly at doing it like I should, but that is like if I'm really quiet and think about it, that would have to be the space.
Do you want to hold each other accountable to meditate more?
I would
Because
love
like
to.
I mean I practice TM, but I haven't been consistent about it at all. And so I feel like when I've had somebody that like will call me or text me to remind me to meditate, or we're doing it at the same time, or we meet up at the same place, I'll do it.
Well, too, we should go. I'll take you to the center, the TM center, the David Lynch Center.
Yes, I would love to.
Because my teacher is Lynn, and
Oh,
she's
great.
there, and they're women's groups and their
Yeah.
group meditation. So
Let's
we should
go.
do it 100%.
Okay.
I would love that.
Amazing. We're going.
I
We're
would love
going.
that.
Yeah, let's do it. We'll set that up off camera, but-
Interestingly, Lynn, my friend Amy, whose house I was living at in
Mm-hmm.
Malibu for many, many years, she gave me the gift
Yeah.
for my birthday
Oh.
of Lynn.
Yeah.
And it was life-changing. And she also gave me Malibu. When
Mm-hmm.
you ask where my favorite place in the whole wide world was, it was that house in Malibu.
Yeah.
Because I felt at home.
Mm-hmm.
It was home. And it was very much Amy. Like, Amy
Yeah.
is such a huge part of my life. And I think about everything from David and the TM that she gave me to we've done Reiki courses together. We have done so many things together. But she's the foundation. And I've never felt safer or more like this is my place as that house.
Wow. Okay. We're definitely going to meditate together, and I want to meet Amy. We're going to hang out.
She's the best human
Yeah.
being ever. Yes.
And yeah, sorry. Do you have something?
No, I mean, yes. I want to talk about how your relationship with so many people is so profound. I mean, you have friends that are just so caring and loving. It just, it's just a fantastic thing.
It made
for
me
to
cry.
witness.
The one thing I will say about that, and it is, I was talking to Shanola earlier. Well, I guess it was last week now, but I was talking to Shanola last week, and the gift that I have been given through the people who were my chosen family
Right.
is the greatest ever. And believe me, I have had people who aren't pure intention. I've had deep heartbreak for sure. But my core group, they are the best people on the planet. But they all have deep spiritual practices, some very different than my own, but they're all very connected. They're all creative. They all live what they preach. They don't judge. They might have opinions, but they don't judge. And we show up for each other.
I think that if I have to translate Art of Elysium, and it's kindness for me. It's what I feel when I go up there. It's just a creativity for sure, but kindness to it, and I think you're a fantastic example of it. But yeah.
Well, my core, Amy, Shanola, Alicia, Rain, Summer,
Right.
it is my kind of core group. They're just the best people on the planet. And so you start with that core group, and then they bring people in. Like
Right.
Rio, it's Rain's nephew. He's family to me because it's an extension of Rain. Like, she is my whole world. And that's how they are. Like, it tears me up because I think about Flora and Kai and Doc and the kids and all of these kids that I get to watch grow up with the most incredible support group of people who are teaching them to be creative, to be their authentic selves, not to judge others, to live a life of service in giving. And there's going to be some extraordinary change on this planet because of this next generation, I believe, wholeheartedly.
Yeah. You're really plucking some heartstrings right now. That's really, really beautiful. That's really, really beautiful.
Well, that's all Amy.
Yeah.
She is a little fairy.
Mm-hmm.
She really is.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. I do have one more question for you, and then we're going to wrap up.
Yes.
Last question. When you walk into a space like the house in Malibu, or like where you're going to hold heaven, or set that up, what is the first thing that you notice?
What I feel.
Mm-hmm.
100% what I feel.
I was like the energy.
Yeah.
That's what Jenn notices.
Yeah.
It is 100% what I feel.
Yeah.
And there are places that I feel at peace, and there are places that I feel incredibly anxious, and it is always that feeling, and it kind of hits me the second I walk in the door.
Yeah. There are certain spaces in this building that I've been in where I will have a wildly different emotional response to it than another space. Do you have
mean
that
the
as well?
spirits in this building? Is that
like
what we're
the
talking
spirits
about?
in this building?
The spirits in this building,
Yeah.
They are very much real, and I think everybody who's been in this building has had an experience here or there. We on 802 in that salon, we call him Jean-Luc.
Very French.
Very
French. Very French. Because so many people who've stayed in that space have seen a man in a 3-piece suit, and
Really?
you can smell cigar smoke.
And
And
is
then
that where
you
the
get
dining room is?
overwhelming where the piano is.
Where the
in
piano
that
is.
area.
Okay, got it.
You get overwhelming, like Krista, who is an artist and has been with the charity for a long time. She was staying in the space for a period of time, and she was like, he brings me gardenias. And it would be the most overwhelming smell of gardenias from nowhere.
Wow.
And she was like, it just doesn't make sense. And it would be like,
Is it
perfume.
you? Are you going?
Did
Is
you
it?
smell gardenias?
I just got chills, you guys.
No, it's he brings gardenias if he likes you. And then, everybody gets locked out of that bedroom when they stay. Everybody, every time. Without fail, locked. Door will be open. You'll have a stopper in it, and they walk out, and and locks them out. And so I think that was his room, but we call him Jean-Luc. That's Jean-Luc. And,
Whoa.
Yeah. I mean, there's
Laurent has had, this is what's creeping me out, is that,
He came down.
yeah, because he had an experience in this unit where he had like an overwhelming smell of flowers, but it was also like somebody that didn't want him to be there, that was like upset. There was like an angry vibe that scared
Another
you.
French guy, he's pissed off.
He's another French guy.
I've been here for
Your
long
competition. He's like, what are you doing? I'm Jean-Luc. Get out, Laurent. Like,
Wow.
This is my territory. But Kristen named it, and that's where it came from, was Jean-Luc. But that's been there. And then, Melanie recently, has she done your podcast yet? Okay. So Mel, I thought she had. She recently asked Charlene and I to go to her studio because there had been crazy stuff going on in the studio. So the three of us go up and we sit there. And again, I'm just at this point, I've been in this building so long, I don't think they're going to harm anyone, but I have been exposed to it. And so we sit there and I'm like, if you're here, please make yourself known. Like, what can we do to help you, like, pass on? Like, what do you need to do? Every single light went out. I mean, all at once. Nowhere else in the building did it happen. Only in there. Charlene freaked out. She started going out. And I was like, you need to sit because we asked for this. Like, you like we said, show us. And it did. And it was like, do you need to pass on? Like, what is going on? Like, what is it? It was definitely, it was alarming. That was alarming.
Okay.
Like, all three of us were genuinely freaked out. Yeah. I was just like, I'm not about to get up and run for the door.
I will say that that's where her gallery is, right? And
yes.
Yeah. I do get that feeling in that space. Like that's the only one that I've been in your unit for Art of Elysium. I haven't felt anything weird.
So what I have been told about the one for us too, where Jean-Luc is that they love that we're bringing people in because this was reminiscent of what the building was created for in 1924.
I got it. Yeah,
is that people were having a grand time and all this, and that they're very happy that we're having these get-togethers, is what I've been told.
That makes sense, because you have so many events in here, so that's probably why there's nothing
Yeah.
I mean, except
I mean,
when you're
except that
alone.
one, I guess I should shoot on for break over the holidays.
Wow. Ah, Jen, it has been so lovely to sit
So
and
wonderful.
chat with you.
I love it. I could chat with y'all all day.
I love it. And I'm gonna see you in a couple of days. Anyway.
Yes, you're gonna see me on
See
Thursday.
you around the building all
I
the time.
love it.
But thank you so much, and we'll ask you more. Like, we'll update on our Instagram and everything, like when Heaven is rescheduled, and more about how people can participate and donate to Art of Elysium and be a part of something that's a really positive movement for creatives and for children and for people who otherwise don't have access to be able to create. So thank you so much.
Thank you both for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Love you.